Alright guys, Saturday, March the 6th, 2021, just coming up to about 3:30 in the afternoon. Welcome back to the garage. I've been out here tinkering a little bit this morning by myself in the morning hours and just playing around a little bit with the steering shaft and steering column placement. So I've just brought out my old dash temporarily to fit that up to the metal dash. In particular, I was looking at how close these switches were to the dash face, and I wanted to make sure I had enough clearance between the dash face and the switches, so there was no interference with the wiper wash switches and with the vents, etc. So actually, initially I had the column in too far, so I've pulled the column out a little bit more, and I think we're pretty good there as far as clearance is concerned as well. I also wanted to dig the old steering wheel out that came on this car, because I wanted to make sure the steering wheel was fitted, so that could also tell me where I needed to position the inner column in order for the steering wheel to fit properly and not bind here on the actual column itself. So we've got that fastened. We now have steering. It's actually not the wheel that's going to be on this car. It's a little bit too big for me. This wheel actually did come with this car. The dash is not the correct dash. I'm not sure if I mentioned that either. This is the dash that came with the car, and it may look okay from far away, but as you get closer up, it's got the varnish is pretty checked up on it. So I could probably refinish this dash if I wanted to, but I actually have a solid walnut dash that I'll be installing in this car, so I have no need really for the old dash. It's a good spare, and if somebody's looking for a TR250 or early TR6 dash, this definitely could be just sanded down and revarnished. Anyway, so we've got a column in the good spot, I think, now. So I think the next steps for me are to probably attach the vents to the metal dash for the eyeball vents here. I can attach those to the back of the dash to get them up and out of the way. And then I want to go back and look at the glove box and try to get that situated before we actually bring out the proper dash for this car and start getting that ready, so then I can start actually doing the wiring from behind the dash. So now that the column is in place, tightened down, we can move forward with doing those next steps. So that's what the plan is. Maybe by the end of the weekend we'll have the dash fully installed, hopefully wired, but I'm not holding my breath or anything, but that's sort of the plan within the next day or two to get the dash in and wired up and looking as it should. Wish me luck. Alright guys, we're just working on installing the eyeball vents now before I put the glove box in. And the glove box is going to wait for a little bit because I find that it's going to really interfere with me getting the bulkhead heater hoses hooked up if I have that glove box in there, so that'll probably wait for a little bit. I have figured out how to install it, and I'll show that later in a later video, but right now we're going to concentrate on these eyeball vents. So I have them here in front of me, and they're kind of cool actually. They're a lot nicer than the later TR6 ones that I've experienced. So they have this little collar on here that just sort of rotates so you can get the actual bracket off just on these pins here. Let me see if I can do it one-handed. And you can see it's got an opening for these little pins, and then that'll drop off like so, and then you can slide this in place and then hook the bracket up from the back and the hose using these little spade clamp type connections, like are familiar with how you connect the gauges to the metal dash as well. So those are pretty cool actually. I like those. So we'll go ahead and we'll affix the clamp, and then we'll affix the hose, and hopefully I've done a quick test fit with the glove box installed, and it does look like I have enough run of hose to tuck that underneath the glove box. There is a bar that actually goes, a support bar that goes under there as well, under the glove box, that we'll install at a later point. We've got it here on the back shelf. You can probably just see the tail end of it there by the black roll of tape. So that goes under here as well. Anyway, let me go ahead and fit this eyeball, and we'll come back and we'll work on something else. Oh, I did tuck the wires up on that side where they kind of need to be through the holes, as far as I know, and got them sort of arranged loosely where they need to be run. So that's another thing I did while I was off camera. Alright guys, we've added this dash stiffener piece, and it wasn't as easy as I anticipated. Here it is in place. There's the, that's a spare one there, and this is the actual one that came out of the car. You can get a quick look of it underneath. So that's what it looks like. Now, I had a bit of an issue because I didn't realize that the, you see the stainless steel fastener there? Well, the fastener beside it is where it's actually supposed to locate, but there's a broken bolt in there. Had I known that, I would have drilled that out prior to paint, but it's a little difficult to do it now. I didn't drill the hole for that other bolts, so obviously the previous owner broke it off, and then his solution was to drill a hole beside it. So I've just utilized that hole that was open beside it to put the new fastener in. So it's in. It's not perfect, but it's functional. All right, we just stuck the glove box in to make sure it still fits, and it's a tight fit. But that's how it should look underneath with that support in. So that looks good. There's a little indent in the cubby box over here where the hose runs up beside it, if you can see that there. So it definitely makes a little bit more room without that extra hosing that would have gone to this bottom vent over here, which would have attached to the bottom of the dash around this location. So I'm happy that's not in there. So again, that'll have to be removed, I think, to make it a little easier to get to the bulkhead pipes for the heater box. But we'll figure that out when we get to that point. All right, on to the next thing. All right, guys, the next step of this project is not going to be too exciting as far as video is concerned. It's going to be me sitting on a stool here in the car with a wiring diagram and going through each of the wires and figuring out what goes where according to the diagram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a Sharpie, and I'm going to grab some laser jet labels, and I'm going to do some pre-work and just label all of the wires before I bring the wood dash out and bring the gauges out. You can do it the other way around. You can work directly from a wiring diagram and hook the gauge up as you go, but I find it's a little easier for me to pre-label and then bring the dash and gauges out, and then just sort of strip the label off the wire as I install it on the actual gauge or whatever location it's going to be attached to. So that's my process. You can do it differently if you like, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be sitting on this stool here for a few hours with a Sharpie and some laser jet labels. Nothing too exciting. All right, guys, so here's the setup. So we've got a color wiring diagram on our iPad. We have the Dan Masters Electrical Handbook, which has a fold-out wiring diagram. It's not in color, though. So I've got the colorized one here on the internet. We've got our laser jet label standing by. We've got our Sharpie standing by, light, some scissors just in case. We got our tunes that we can't play while we're recording video. And we have our old wiring harness standing by just for reference if need be. I did label most of the connections when I took this off, so it'd be a good comparison if I run into trouble. I always have the old harness to have a look at. So let's get busy. It's going to take a while, but shouldn't be too difficult. And if I run into problems, then I've got a wiring expert to call. His name is Alind. All right, guys, about an hour or so later, I think we pretty much got everything labeled. There's one green wire in the center here that I'm not quite sure of. It might be for the reverse lights, which would go down to the tranny tunnel, or down through the trans tunnel to a switch on the transmission. So that could be it. But other than that, everything else is pretty much labeled, with the exception of the steering column wiring, which is underneath here, and it's kind of color coded, or should be. So we'll get to that eventually. I'm just more concerned about the actual dash wiring at the moment. So I think we're good to go there. So we're going to call the night out here. It's just coming up to 9 p.m. So being out here pretty much most of the day today, doing little jobs, not worthy of really too much video, unfortunately. You would have hated to see me go through wire by wire and label those, so I didn't video that. But there is the aftermath, and there's the phone. Talk to you later. All right, guys, now Sunday morning, the 7th of March, 2021, And just picking up where we left off, got disturbed by that phone call last night. It was just actually Les calling me to update me on his day's events. Anyway, we left off, I think I was talking about there was one wire that I couldn't figure out where it went to, and I went inside and looked at the wiring diagram a little bit more closely, and I found that this is the heater box switch. So I've got all of the wires labeled now, and I was talking about the possibility of getting the actual wooden dash in by the end of today. The only problem is I've now discovered that I'm actually missing some parts to make that happen. I do have an order coming hopefully this week. It's been a few weeks since I've placed the order, and due to the current environment, things are taking much longer to get here than normal. Part of that order are the gaskets for behind the gauges before they fit into the actual dash. There's a small rubber gasket that goes around each gauge, and I do not have those. They're part of that package, as well as other things like that bulkhead heater hose connection, which I'd really like to get fitted, and a number of other things, overdrive relay, which is not really important to this project currently, but anyway, those little things are going to kind of slow me down, so I will not be able to get. Well, I could put the dash in and then just do some rework, but I don't really want to have to go back and do that. Once the gauges are in there, I want them to be in there. I don't want to have to pull them out and disconnect everything basically to put a gasket on and then put it back in the dash. So we'll just wait to put the dashboard in. So having said that, I do have some work to actually do on my dashboard. Here is my new dash. It's a solid walnut dash, but I need to do a few things actually. You probably don't notice, but you can see that this one has actually got the holes drilled in it, and this one does not. So I need to drill holes in my brand new dash in order to fix it to the metal dash backing. I also need to do things like fit the glove box hinges. We're going to steal the hinges off this glove box and the lock mechanism, and we're going to put it on this dash as well. Things like the hazard switch and the lights for the hazard and brake warning switches, the rheostat, all can be transferred over as well. So I can do that and get the dash ready to go in. So that's one job I can do today. The other job I can do is I don't really want to do it, but since I'm waiting on parts, I can actually fit that glove box in there. Again, I may have to take it out in order to get a little bit more room under the dash. But I think I might be able to work around it, so I'm going to try to use the dash fixing, or the glove box fixing kit to locate that glove box where it should be. I've got to drill some holes in the new plastic box, and there's some spire nuts, etc. that affix that to that location, so we'll do a little bit of work on the glove box cubby as well to get that ready for the wood dash to go on. So those are the two jobs up for this morning. I'm going to go through the parts bins, and I think I have some things like the dash screws, etc. hidden away. I have pulled some parts out of my bin from inside. Some old rocker switches, some old warning lights. I'm not sure if these are better or worse than what's on the car currently. There's some more here. More warning lights. So we'll pick the best of what I have. There's another hazard switch, another rheostat. So we'll go through the parts and we'll pick the best of the best to be able to use on this restoration project. I do actually have a new switch for, I think it's either the washer or the wiper mechanism, but the only problem is it's got a chrome bezel on it, and it will not match the old switches that came in this car originally. So either buy another new switch or we'll just use the two old switches if they work. So that's a decision I'm going to have to make at some point. But anyway, I know I have some other parts for the dash in, I think, the top bin over there. So we'll dig those out first, and then we'll go from there. All right, we're going to start working on the old dash to remove all of the hardware off the back of the old dash. So we're just about to go to town on that. I thought I'd give you a quick shot of that. Some plates here for the wipe and wash switches, hazard switch, the warning lights, the rheostat, obviously the cubby box door. Here's the hinge unit, the stopper, the lock, and the hinges that all need to be removed. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that now, and we'll look at transferring that to the new dash. So just a little tip on the rheostat knob. It's not like the traditional knob where there's a little button you can press to get it off. Often these are welded to the shaft and they're difficult to get off. So what I try to do is utilize a little bit of heat in the heat gun to coax it off, and that usually works. So we'll give that a shot now. Alright guys, the old components have now been stripped off the dash, and we've got the comparison of the new dash versus the old dash. So this is a solid walnut dash versus a veneered dash. I think this is teak off the top of my head. I'm not a wood expert, so I like the solid walnut. Obviously there are a lot more ornate dashes out there, where whether you wanted to go with a burl wood or a zebra wood type style koa. I've seen a whole bunch of different style dashes, but the walnut's pretty simple, and I like the color of it. It's a little bit darker than the what I'm calling teak veneer. So anyway, I think this will look good in the car. So we'll go ahead and we'll start transferring components over and drilling holes where need be. And these are the holes I'm talking about. To do the actual dash fixing to the metal backing, I need to drill those holes. So I'll probably just lay the old dash over as a template and drill a pilot through, and then we'll enlarge the holes afterwards. I'm not really looking forward to that. I've been sort of worried about this step of the process. I don't want to splinter or crack the dash, so we'll do the best we can. We'll masking tape it up before we drill, but hopefully things will go okay. There's also a little bit of a countersink to these holes, so I'm not sure whether that countersink is done just by they have these cup washers that are like here on the back. Let me see if I can just pull one up. So they have these little cup washers that fit in here. So I don't know if the cup is creating the countersink, or whether they're actually countersunk a little bit from the factory. But anyway, that's not a factory dash, I don't believe anyway. So we'll see what we can do. Wish me luck. Alright guys, it looks like I've managed to drill these holes successfully, as long as they're in the right location. And I did countersink them a little bit with just my step drill. And you can see that that kind of looks like it's going to work. So if I can just fit that there, and then that screw should pull that into that recess a little bit more. So I think that's going to be good. And I didn't chip anything, which is excellent. So I think we'll move on to the next step. I think what we'll do is we'll start by attaching the glove box that we have over there. So we've got to take the hinges off of here and transfer them over here. And I got to grab my lid that is over here. So we'll get that transferred over. See if there's any more holes I need to drill. Now this one looks like it's been pre-drilled, so that's good. So we'll transfer this over, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright guys, we're making progress. We've just gone and grabbed our new dash knobs, but I'm just specifically looking for the rheostat knob, which is there. Here is the old one, so that's going to be a nice improvement. One quick comment on the switch. You remember I said that I'd got a new wiper switch. So this is a Lucas part number 30365. And you can see that's got a chrome housing on it versus the original black housing. So I've opted to go with the original switches for now, although I might actually try to find another either a matching set of black ones or a matching set of chrome ones, although I think I like the black on this dash a little bit better. But anyway, just thought I'd let you know that I've got that, but I'm opting not to use it in favor of the original switches. So I'm going to add that rheostat knob, and then I think I'm going to just put the gauges in the dash just to have a quick look. Again, I don't have the gaskets for them, but I have all the gauges here that I've restored previously. So we'll just throw those in there and see how it looks, and we'll wait for our gaskets to arrive, and we will install this in the car. Alright guys, that was a fun little project. The dash is now fully assembled, and I think it looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. The glove box door could be a little bit better gap, but I think it'll be okay once it's on the car, and you see the basically the black of the cubby hole behind it. It's obviously there's a white blanket behind it at the moment, so it looks like it's a little bit more glaring than it is, but I think it's going to be fine. So yeah, happy with that. So another job done. Of course we'll have to take it apart to put it in the car, but that's okay. We have all the hardware required, and everything is cleaned and looks good. All the holes are drilled, hopefully located in the right place. We'll find that out when we go to install the dash, but I'm pretty confident we did okay. So yeah, another job done. So I think the last job for today will be to play around with the cubby box and to get that situated in the metal dash. And like I said, I'm going to have to poke a few holes in that cover because there's nothing drilled currently. So we'll situate it, mark it out, punch some holes, and then get that screwed into the metal dash, ready for the next step. Oh, and just another quick note on the dash project. So I do have a full complement of new bulbs to go in the dash wiring. So we'll swap those out when we fit the gauges in. And regardless of whether these ones actually work or not, we're going to start with a fresh batch of bulbs. Now is the right time to do it, if we're going to do it at all. I didn't bother with the LED conversion. We're just sticking with the regular conventional bulbs. But I'm happy with those in the TR6, so they'll be fine in the TR250. All right, we've marked the hole locations on the box. There's 2 on the bottom, 2 on the sides, and 2 on the top. And we've just used some liquid paper to sort of stick up there and use the pointy end of this to actually mark the hole locations. So hopefully we can wrestle the box out without disturbing the markings. Here's the fixing kit. So these will actually go onto the actual box itself. Once we drill the holes, these will go over the holes, and then these fasteners will then screw into them. So let's see if we can wrestle that box out without doing too much damage. Alright guys, we've got the spire nuts attached at the appropriate locations with holes drilled through for pilots. I've got 2 more clips here to go on the bottom of the box. We'll install those once we wrestle it back in, and hopefully we'll be successful in attaching it to the metal dash. Alright, the glove box slash cubby box is in successfully. It's a little bit tricky actually to line those fasteners up. You got to really stretch that box a little bit. Good thing it's flexible plastic. Not sure how I would have done with the fiberboard, original fiberboard. Anyway, it's in there, so hopefully we don't have to take it out again. But it looks good and definitely functional. Anyway, so I think that's going to be it for today. We'll drag some more little projects out that we can find. I wish I could continue on with the dash project, but like I said, I'm going to wait first of all for that bulkhead fastener for the heater box, and secondly for those round gaskets for the back of the gauges. There's no sense putting them in and having to take them out, and I'm not going to put them in without the gaskets. I have done that in the past, and I'm going to try to do it properly on this car, so we'll wait. Alright guys, that's it for now. We'll upload where we're at, and we'll get back out here tomorrow, and hopefully our package might arrive.